Hello, I'm Kathy Taylor, the editor of Human Events, and I'm here with John Gizzi. John Gizzi has been political editor for Human Events in Washington, D.C. for 33 years. We got a bit of a surprise this weekend with the selection of Paul Ryan for vice presidential candidate running with Mitt Romney. That's my first question, John. Were you surprised at the Paul Ryan pick?
Pretty surprised, considering the fact that everyone seemed to believe it was going to be either former Governor Tim Pawlenty of Minnesota or Senator Rob Portman. The news about Paul Ryan electrified the California Republican State Convention, where I was just as the news came out that Governor Romney would name his running mate. To a person, everyone at that convention I spoke to became excited and animated. And as State Chairman Tom Del Beccaro put it, now we know it won't be just a campaign of contrasts, but a campaign of ideas.
And that's what they liked about it.
Exactly.
And what does he bring to the ticket? Say more about that.
Well, where do we start? For one thing, at 42, he would be one of the 4 youngest vice presidents in American history. And yet, very much like Theodore Roosevelt when he became vice president at 42, Paul Ryan brings long experience, understanding of issues, and a knowledge of how to mix it up with political opponents. He is only the second Roman Catholic ever to be on a Republican ticket and would be the first person to go directly from the House of Representatives to the vice presidency since John Nance Garner of Texas in 1932. A lot of history in this man. Most importantly, as chairman of the House Budget Committee, he is someone who has crafted a message about the future. Just how will entitlements look in 20 years when the money runs out? As one California county chairman put it to me, Paul Ryan doesn't want us to be around when the welfare checks start bouncing.
As a campaigner, it often falls to the role of the VP to be the attack dog. How will Paul Ryan handle that role?
Well, in an interesting way. I think he would be more of an Airedale or a German Shepherd rather than a pit bull. Because in knowing Paul Ryan all these years, one thing I've found, like his mentor Jack Kemp, he never says a harsh word about anyone. He never loses his temper. He never dismisses anyone's opinion. And he will go back to the union halls in Janesville, Wisconsin, in his district, which is still Democratic, and listen to their views, complaints, present himself, and guess what? He's never been reelected with under 63% of the vote. Barack Obama carried that district by 10%.
Wow, you've known him a long time personally,
Yes.
right? When did you first meet him, and what do you know about Paul Ryan that others may not see?
As someone who's covered Capitol Hill for a while, Kathy, I certainly heard about him when he was a congressional staffer, as a bright young man to watch and get to know. In 1998, the congressional district that he would eventually represent was open. Congressman Mark Newman was running for the United States Senate, and 28-year-old Paul Ryan came to see me wanting to be in our Races of the Week feature. Well, he didn't have to do much convincing because the vision that he offers now about the role of government, individual freedom, and opportunity, he presented right in my office here in Human Events 14 years ago. I've interviewed him over the years in various capacities in Congress. In 2008, some of his colleagues on the House Ways and Means Committee wanted him to be vice president then. And Congressman Phil English of Pennsylvania, a very persuasive person who likes to get his own way, insisted I get him in the issue. So he was in Human Events Veep Stakes 4 years before it happened.
And of course, Human Events named him Conservative
Exactly.
of the Year in 2011 for
Yes.
all his work on the budget. And that brings us to one of the criticisms of Paul Ryan from the other side is that they say, boy, the conservatives seem to be backing someone who has been in Washington all this time, and that's typically what conservatives criticize about liberals. What would you say to that? What will be Paul Ryan's comeback to that?
Well, as an old political reporter, I can tell you that it's a very nice balance when you have an outsider, such as Governor Romney, who spent his career in business or as governor of Massachusetts, and an insider who knows how the place works in Congressman Ryan. Look, he is inside the Beltway now, but he is certainly not of the Beltway. The last time we talked, he made it very clear to me that his wife and 3 young children are back home in the Badger State, and he spends only as much time here as possible. So you might say that he's been inoculated but never addicted. And he knows business quite well. He grew up working in a family business in his summers while he was at Miami University studying economics. He's made a career of understanding the market and economic systems here and abroad.
Well, that's true. And when we visited Paul in his office earlier this year, I was struck by all the mementos and icons from Wisconsin businesses that were there prominently displayed as you walked in, and you immediately became curious about him and his state and what they produced. So any other advice you have for the RomneyRyan ticket, the R+R?
Well, I would say this. There's so many analogies that are going to be made, and I would just say that Paul Ryan is very much like the young Theodore Roosevelt when he was tapped as William McKinley's vice president. He's youthful, he takes a lot of hits, he's controversial and yet lovable at the same time. So as Theodore Roosevelt used to say, don't flinch, don't fall, but hit the line hard.
Give no quarter, bear no malice, as Winston Churchill said.
Right.
So bottom line, a good pick?
Excellent.